Hello there. Today I'm going to talk about what would happen if the colonial fleet, led by Battlestar Galactica, discovered the Pegasus Galaxy instead of Earth. How would the encounter between Wraiths and humans from the 12 colonies look like? And who would emerge victorious out of this desperate situation? Let's find out. In this alternate sci-fi scenario, the colonial fleet from Battlestar Galactica takes a wrong turn through space and emerges not in search of Earth, but in the Pegasus Galaxy. Here, instead of finding refuge, they stumble into a silent, haunted region of space ruled by a terrible predator, the Wraith. This sets the stage for a conflict rooted not in politics or ideology, but in two primal forces, survival and hunger. The human survivors aboard Galactica and its civilian fleet are driven by a single purpose: to find a habitable world where humanity can begin again. After decades of war, nuclear genocide, and constant pursuit, their motives are clear and deeply human. They seek peace, safety, and the chance to rebuild their civilization. But the Pegasus Galaxy offers none of that. Instead, they find themselves in an environment shaped by war, death, and the long shadow of the ancients, who are already gone. In this hostile galaxy, every star system is a potential home or a trap. Galactica's fleet jumps from world to world, scanning for life-supporting planets. But these planets are often seeded worlds, places the Wraith use as feeding grounds. The humans' search for a home places them directly in the Wraith's path. To the Wraith, humans are food. The Wraith are not mindless monsters. They are intelligent and strategic, but their biology demands that they feed on the life force of humans. When the BSG fleet appears, it registers as a massive, unexpected food source. Unlike the scattered remnants of ancient seeded human civilizations, the colonial fleet brings with it tens of thousands of healthy, viable humans. To the Wraith, it's not just prey, it's a banquet drifting right into their web. Their motivation is not malice, it's hunger. Just as a cat doesn't hate the mouse, the Wraith don't hate humans. But they also don't view them as equals. They are resources. What makes this conflict real is that both sides are desperate. The BSG fleet has nowhere else to go. Their resources are dwindling, their population fragile. Running isn't a long-term solution. But standing and fighting a technologically superior, numerically overwhelming enemy like the Wraith may mean annihilation. On the other side, the Wraith see this new group of humans as a challenge to their feeding cycles. The humans' technology is alien, far different from the descendants of ancient seeded worlds they usually prey on. Worse, the humans fight back. Galactica's tactics are unpredictable, and the colonial military, though primitive by Wraith standards, is capable of killing. This resistance intrigues the Wraith. It angers some. It makes others curious. Some want to harvest the fleet immediately. Others want to study them, clone them, or use them to improve their feeding process. There is no diplomacy, because there's no middle ground. The Wraith cannot be negotiated with on moral terms. They are evolutionarily committed to harvesting human life. The humans cannot or don't want to go anywhere else. No matter how badly they want to avoid another war, the result is inevitable. A slow-burning conflict, where every encounter carries the weight of survival, every skirmish is a potential massacre, and every planet is a gamble. In this alternate reality, the fleet may have escaped the Cylons, but it has entered a galaxy governed by a far more alien terror. One that doesn't want to destroy them for revenge or ideology, but to feed on them. And there is no end to that hunger. Wraith hive ships are enormous, biomechanical behemoths, hundreds of meters long, combining biotechnology and warcraft. They are armored with regenerative organic plating, capable of healing from damage over time. Armed with plasma-based energy weapons, effective against conventional metals and hulls, capable of hyperspace travel, allowing them to cover vast distances, although with cooldowns and vulnerabilities during travel. These ships are not built, they grow. Their semi-sentient structures allow them to adapt and reconfigure to damage, making them resilient in protracted battles. In contrast, the Galactica is a massive warship from a dying civilization that leans heavily on brute force, strategy, and pilots, rather than technological supremacy. No energy shields. All protection comes from heavy armor plating and point defense systems. Galactica relies on kinetic cannons, batteries, and nuclear warheads, delivering raw, destructive firepower. Unlike hyperspace, colonial FTL allows for instantaneous point-to-point travel, though it requires precise coordinates and calculation time. The Battlestar's strength lies not in automated systems but in its elite fighter pilots, flying Vipers into combat for both offense and defense. Galactica's doctrine is a product of decades of war against the Cylons, an enemy that used logic, speed, and hacking. It was designed to operate independently and rely on human decision-making in chaos. The most dynamic clashes occur between the Wraith Darts and Colonial Vipers. Wraith Darts are fast, agile, and lightly armored, built for high-speed hit-and-run attacks. Armed with energy weapons, which can penetrate lighter armor but struggle with the dense plating of colonial ships. Designed to harvest humans, but they require hive-ship coordination, vulnerable when cut off from command. Darts operate more like biological extensions of the hive, swarming in numbers and relying on overwhelming speed and unpredictability. Colonial Vipers are high-speed, high-maneuverability space superiority fighters piloted manually by elite human pilots, armed with cannons and sometimes small-yield missiles, extremely resilient in the hands of skilled pilots built for sustained combat and defense. Pilots are trained for individual initiative, capable of adapting in chaotic dogfights. Vipers are machines of war built on reflex, intuition, and sheer determination. Against a swarm of darts, a Viper squadron can hold its own if properly supported by Galactica. Wraith strategy is quite simple. Strike with overwhelming numbers. Target civilian ships for culling, not just destruction. Avoid full engagements with capital ships unless they can swarm and overwhelm. Wraith are patient hunters. They observe, test, and exploit weakness over time. They don't rush into wars. They feed off them. If the Battlestar Galactica were to face a Wraith hive ship in direct combat, the encounter would likely be catastrophic for the colonial fleet. Though Galactica is a powerful warship by human standards, designed to withstand Cylon assaults and support its own fighter squadrons, it was never built to stand against the kind of advanced alien firepower the Wraith command. A single salvo from a hive ship's main batteries could gut Galactica's interior, rupture its hull, or overload key systems. And while the Colonials possess nuclear warheads, even these are questionable against a hive's regenerative organic structure. Galactica, in a fair fight, would not stand a chance. To survive, the Colonial fleet would need to avoid direct engagements, rely on hit-and-run tactics, and exploit the Wraith's few weaknesses. Overconfidence, slow maneuverability, and reliance on harvesting rather than immediate annihilation. Victory wouldn't come through firepower, but through ingenuity, sabotage, and desperation. When the war between the Colonial fleet and the Wraith spills onto planetary surfaces, the resulting conflict is not a fair fight. It is a desperate struggle between a highly resilient predator species and a group of exhausted, under-equipped human civilians trying to survive. In this grim equation, the Wraith possess the biological and technological upper hand, while the humans rely on terrain, cunning, and sheer desperation. Wraith ground forces are few but devastating. Each Wraith warrior is physically superior to a human. Taller, stronger, and nearly impossible to kill with conventional firearms, they possess rapid, regenerative abilities, allowing them to recover from gunfire unless immediately fatal. Stun weapons, which fire energy pulses designed to incapacitate rather than kill, allowing them to harvest humans alive. Telepathic communication, giving them coordination without the need for comms. Though they rarely deploy in large numbers, the Wraith are fully capable of wiping out resistance when they choose to descend in force. A single Wraith can walk through small arms fire, overwhelm multiple opponents, and begin feeding in minutes. Their only real limitation is tactical. They rarely use lethal force unless necessary, preferring to subdue and capture. This gives human resistance fighters a small but critical window to strike back before they're harvested. The Colonial survivors are mostly civilians. Their weapons are limited: standard-issue Colonial rifles, pistols, and salvaged military gear. They are not trained for extended planetary warfare, and they have no backup, no resupply chain, and very few heavy weapons. Against the Wraith, a head-on confrontation is suicide. But humans have one ancient advantage: the ability to wage asymmetrical war. Colonial survivors would fall back on guerrilla tactics, ambushes in terrain the Wraith don't control, booby traps and hit-and-run attacks on patrols, snipers, small squads, and night strikes, sabotaging Wraith supply lines or local harvesting structures. These tactics wouldn't win battles, But they would buy time, protect small settlements, and occasionally allow the humans to recover stunned captives or destroy isolated wraith. When the colonial fleet stumbles into the Pegasus Galaxy, it finds not salvation, but a nightmare. On the ground, the colonists face overwhelming odds. They are outnumbered, outgunned, and biologically outclassed. The only possible edge they have is not found in their weapons or their ships, but in an ancient piece of technology scattered across countless worlds, the Stargates. Installed by the ancients millions of years ago, the Stargate network connects thousands of planets across the Pegasus Galaxy. Instantaneous and free of fuel costs, the Stargates allow for rapid movement, even for those without ships. In the context of Wraith-dominated space, they serve as a lifeline for any human group hoping to evade extinction. For the colonists, the Stargate becomes more than just a tool, it becomes their strategy. With the Stargate network, the colonials could adopt a mobile survival doctrine, establish hidden, temporary outposts on uninhabited or long-forgotten worlds, rotate civilian populations through safe gates to avoid Wraith culling patterns, use scouts and recon teams to monitor Wraith presence and movement through gate travel, plant false trails, leading Wraith to dead ends or trap-laden worlds, evacuate instantly at the first sign of Wraith detection. This approach abandons any hope of traditional warfare. The colonists wouldn't defend territory. They would abandon it before the Wraith arrive. The goal isn't to win. The goal is to not be found. This strategy, while effective, comes at a steep price. Constant movement would mean no true home, no safety, no time to build. Resources like food, water, and medical supplies would have to be relocated constantly. The population would become fragmented, with families separated, small groups scattered across the stars. Morale would plummet, as people live in fear, silence, and uncertainty. Commanders like Adama or Roslin would be forced to lead a nomadic civilization, held together only by communication, planning, and shared will to survive. Fortunately, the Wraith are not all-knowing. Their reliance on culling cycles and their focus on surface-level dominance means many gates are unmonitored or forgotten. The ancients once seeded life on thousands of worlds, and the Wraith can't be everywhere at once. Moreover, the Wraith have limited interest in technology. They harvest, they do not explore. This gives the colonists an edge. They can rediscover forgotten worlds, activate dormant facilities, and repurpose ancient ruins into hidden sanctuaries. In the Pegasus Galaxy, brute strength means nothing. Against the Wraith, the colonial fleet cannot hope to fight. Their only salvation lies in mobility, stealth, and the vast, ancient network of Stargates left behind by a long-dead empire. The Stargate becomes the ultimate symbol of hope and terror, a doorway to survival, but never permanence, a path to life, but not peace. To live, the colonists must learn to run smarter, hide deeper, and stay one step ahead of the monsters who see them only as food. And as long as the Stargate still stands, humanity might endure, if only in the shadows. So that's it. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.